Hey guys, it's Kelly from Kelly's Astrology here. I wanted to sit down and record a short video titled, "Where is the eclipse in my chart?" I had a number of people email and text over the last few days trying to figure out from my blog post exactly where or how the eclipse might be triggering their chart. So one of my personal missions in life is to teach astrology as much as possible. So as a supplement, I guess, to the courses that I offer and the webinars that I run, I am looking to record a few YouTube videos as well, just to provide a few quick answers. And also I know when I get the same question coming through quite a lot, obviously there's a lot of people wondering about this particular issue, whatever it happens to be. So I've got two charts that I'm going to use as example charts today. One of the friends who was like, how is this affecting my chart, or where do I find it in my chart? And one from someone else. So it's a very short presentation just to show you visually how you would locate the degree of the eclipse. So the example I'm using is the current or the recent Leo solar eclipse at 28 Leo. So I'm just going to use that as a teaching tool. This technique can be applied to anything. You know, if you hear astrologers talking about Jupiter is in Libra and you think, well, how and where does that affect Jupiter in my chart? Or how does that affect my chart? Where is Libra for me? This is something my siblings often say, like, it's really interesting that I need more about how does that affect my chart. So the first thing that you'll need to figure this out is you will need a copy of your birth chart. So if you don't have that, hot-foot it over to astro.com where you can create a chart free. You will need your time, date, and place of birth to create that. If you don't have your birth time, a good working default is to use sunrise on whatever day you were born. Absolutely not as precise as having your exact birth time, but not everyone has their birth time, and you'll still get some really good insights by doing that sunrise. So you put the sun on the ascendant. But if you do have your birth time, all the better. You can approach your favorite astrologer. It's pretty easy for us these days just to create the chart and send you the PDF file. So having a copy of your chart is the first place to start. So what I'm going to do now is just get this presentation up and running, mostly because astrology is so visual. And the biggest challenge that I run into when I write blog posts, for instance, is it's very confusing for you to try and figure out how all that info applies to you when you haven't actually got your chart there. So where is the eclipse or anything in my chart? Let's dive in. Now, we know that this eclipse, the recent Leo solar eclipse, happened at 28 Leo. So what you have to do is find where 28 degrees Leo sits or falls in your particular birth chart. And the first step to doing that is to find which house has the sign of Leo on the cusp. So I'm just getting my drawing tool here. So what you'll see when you look at the chart is you'll have all the houses numbered on the inside of the chart wheel. And the houses are the framework or the backbone of the chart, so that the first house is always in this left-hand position, just below that kind of horizontal spot. And then the houses move anti-clockwise. The zodiac signs are arranged around the houses, so that even though you might not think of yourself as anything other than your sun sign, you actually do have all 12 of the zodiac signs represented in your chart somewhere. And that will be through their connection to the houses. So in the outside of the wheel that you're looking at, you're going to see different zodiac symbols placed around the chart. And 9 times out of 10, you will see them placed on these boundaries. Now, these markers here, these lines that kind of dissect or cut the circle of the chart, they're known as house cusps. There are a few different house systems. So there's different ways that astrologers can calculate where those cusps lie. And I am going to show you a couple of different examples today just for contrast. But for the most part, you'll just be looking at your chart, you'll see the house cusps or the dividing lines. And what you're looking for is the sign that the line cuts into. So for instance, in this person's chart, the sign of Leo is on this line here, and that is the second house dividing line. So remembering that the houses go anti-clockwise, The first sign house combination you have will be the first house, and you'll always be looking for that on the left-hand side of the chart. You will know that it's the first house because it will have the AS or the ascendant in it if you're using whole sign houses. If you're not, stay tuned for the second section here. The first house will also have the number 1 in it. So the first sign goes with the first house, and the way that that first sign is determined is through a combination of time, space, and place. That's why we need your birth location, and it's why we need the time of day that you were born, because the sign in that ascendant or east position does change throughout the day at the location that you were born. So for this particular person, the sign of Leo sits on the second house cusp. Now I'll just get rid of some of this icky drawing here. So there's Leo, the big red symbol of Leo. Now, if you're not familiar with the symbols of the zodiac signs, that will be something that you will want to learn as you're getting started with astrology. So Leo here on the second house cusp, which means the degree of the eclipse, 28 Leo, will be about here. We can see that this cusp, because it's in whole sign, has 0 degrees of Leo on the boundary marker. And then we go from 0 Leo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on Leo, all the way through the house. So if we're at 28 Leo, we're further into the sign of Leo, and that would put the degree there. So for this particular person with a Cancer ascendant in the whole sign house system, the Leo eclipse was triggering the second house and topics to do with money, cash flow, income, savings and spending habits. And remembering from the blog post I wrote that this eclipse is very much about new beginnings or bringing new things forward. So for this person in general, this new moon solar eclipse in Leo, which is in their second house of money, would be about new things, new opportunities to do with earning money. It can be to do with spending. It's more likely to be with new income, new work opportunities, and perhaps a new budget or a new savings strategy or debt repayment plan, depending on their goals and their circumstances in life. So let's have a look at another chart just to give you a quick little look at how this can be different. Not everyone will have Leo in the same place in their chart. So we all do have Leo somewhere in our chart. Everybody will have Leo connected to one or another of the 12 houses. Your mission is to figure out which one it is for you. So we're looking for the Leo symbol. And in this chart here, Leo sits at the very top of the chart on the 10th house cusp. So for this particular person, Leo rules the 10th house of career, profession, fame, reputation, and public roles and responsibilities. So for this person with the eclipse at 28 Leo, again, the house starts at 0 Leo and moves by degrees through the signs, so that 28 Leo is going to be actually nearer the start of Virgo than it is the start of Leo. So for this person, the new moon energy of the eclipse about moving forward would be about fresh starts or new beginnings, or perhaps some breakthroughs, because it's an eclipse and not just a regular new moon, to do with their career. So this would be a great person for this, great time for this person to think about maybe looking for a job, pushing for a promotion, getting involved with a prestigious or a high profile project at work, because the eclipse has activated all of the topics to do with the 10th house. Now, if you're sort of thinking, okay, I'm kind of getting what you're talking about, Kelly, I can figure out where Leo is in my chart. The next thing, of course, is to build an understanding of what the 12 houses are rule or represent. And I've got a slide at the end of this presentation where I've put in some links. So further reading, resources like downloadable lectures, as well as a link to one of my online courses if you do want to go into this, depending on how much more detail, whether you just want a freebie, whether you want to spend a little bit of money, or whether you want to spend a lot of money. So there'll be options there. Because once, of course, you figure out, okay, the Leo eclipse is in my 10th house, it's about work, or what's the 10th house about? That's obviously the next piece. And this technique will actually help you with anything. So at the moment, we also have Jupiter in Libra. So similarly, how is that affecting you? You would want to go and find the house in your chart that has the sign of Libra on the cusp. Now, the biggest confusion that students often have is they can see, okay, that's the sign of Libra, here's the cusp, but does Libra rule this house or this house? And that's where you have to come back to this moving anti-clockwise through the chart, so that if we'd started in their first house and moved all the way around, excuse my bad drawing, this house here would be ruled by whatever sign is on this cusp. So when we see Libra on this line, we know it has to be ruling this house here, the 12th house. So now I'm just referencing for this particular person where they would track or find how the Jupiter in Libra cycle or transit is affecting their personal chart. So the other big cycle we're in at the moment, as I'm recording this in August of 2017, we do have Saturn in Sagittarius. Same thing. How aware is that affecting me? Find the house in your chart that has the sign of Sagittarius on it. I think I've just given my little mouse a hiccup. So that's, there we go. So Sagittarius is here. Again, it could be this house or this house, but remember we're going in this direction. So Sag will rule the second house of money. So for this person, the Saturn in Sag cycle is very personally about responsibility, which is a Saturn thing, to do with cash flow, money, income, etc. Of course, you can interpret it in a lot more detail, and that's the work of a predictive session to a certain extent. Now, some of you will be thinking, I don't use whole sign houses in my charts, Kelly, or I don't actually know what whole sign houses are. Now, if that's you, you are probably using what's called a quadrant-based house system, and probably Placidus or either Co or Kosh. The pronunciation I'm always a little hazy on. These are the two house systems that many of the astrology softwares will default to automatically. And look, to be honest, for the first probably 10 years of my astrology practice, that's what I used. So you will get a great working system from your astrology by using that house system. I have made a change to whole sign houses, and probably the lecture about why, or the discussion about why, I can save for another day. In a Placidus or quadrant-based house system, you will have house cusps that fall in the middle of a sign somewhere. So this is the same chart we were just looking at before that had Leo in the 10th house. And we still have Leo on the 10th house. We've got the cusp dividing line. We've got a sign. You'll now note there are some degrees here because this is using the midheaven point as the cusp line. In whole sign houses, the midheaven is still a really important point, but it's a floating degree, and it's not always in the 10th house, actually. Sometimes it can be in the 8th, 9th, or 11th houses. Again, save some of those technical details for another day. Mostly, I just wanted to show you that if you do have a quadrant-based house system like Placidus or Co, and you'll know if you have different numbers on your house cusps, and if your houses vary in size and shape. So in this chart, houses 1 through 3 are a little bigger, and houses 10, 11, and 12 are a little smaller, and that we get that variation in the Placidus system. So what you have to do in this approach is you have to figure out, okay, the eclipse is in Leo, but it's 28 degrees of Leo. Which side of the cusp line is 28 Leo on? Now, remembering that we move in that anti-clockwise direction, if we've got the cusp at 15 degrees, that means that Leo started back here with 0 and will run to about here. That'll be the 29 degree marker, which is the last degree in Leo. So 28 Leo would be here. So it's still in Leo, and for this chart, it's still in the 10th house. But if you are using a Placidus system, you do sometimes just need to check which side of the cusp line. So we'll go back to the very first chart we had a look at, which was my darling girlfriend who wants, and part of the reason I love getting these questions from readers and clients is that it tells me that you're really working with your chart. You've pulled it out, you're trying to play around with it, you're excited by it, you're interested in it. And so, you know, anything that I can offer that would help you better understand that, I'm more than happy to provide. One of the best ways to get a question to me is actually through my Facebook page, Kelly's Astrology. So pop over there if there's anything you do want to know more about. So in this chart, we still have Leo on the second house cusp, and we just need to find which side of this dividing line is 28 Leo. And if you've been following along, you're probably realizing, yes, Kelly said we go in this direction, anti-clockwise. So the start of Leo is about here in the first house, which means that the end of Leo, where this eclipse is, will be 28 Leo, and then in the second house. So interpretively, you know, in these two charts, the house placement of the eclipse doesn't change. The key is to just work with your chart as it is and find where that 28-degree marker of the Leo eclipse is. For this person, Jupiter in Libra would be down here in the fourth house. So activating fourth house topics, which are home, family, one's living situation. Saturn in Sag is partly in the fifth house and partly in the sixth, because the dividing marker for the sixth house in the Placidus system is kind of split. And so one portion of the Saturn in Sag cycle would be about fifth house topics, romance, children, fun and pleasure. And the other portion would be about sixth house topics, which would be work, effort, daily routines, health, wellness, and fitness. If this chart was in the whole sign system, the Saturn in Sag cycle would be all sixth house. So hopefully that's helped clear up some questions about how or where the eclipse degree might fall in your house. If you need to clarify anything, if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the comments below. And here are some extra resources. I'll post these links in the section below the video as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to being in touch again in the future. Bye for now.